Green Meadows, a town painted with peace. The northeastern plains stretched around it. Spring had arrived. The skies remained grey. The breeze held a chill, yet hope bloomed in the hearts of the townsfolk. Anticipation hung in the air, thick as the scent of newly turned earth. The great planting celebration was upon them. The town thrummed with life. Booths blossomed on every corner, bright with streamers and flowers. Laughter echoed through the streets. Neighbors exchanged greetings, their faces etched with relief. Winter's grip had loosened. Stories of the cold months tumbled from their lips. Across the Willow River, music filled the air. Guitars strummed, drums beat a lively rhythm. The harvesters, a local band, played their hearts out. Their tunes resonated with the soul of Green Meadows, songs of toil, of triumph, of life's simple pleasures. The very tools of their livelihood were transformed. Tractors and trailers, silent giants in the fields, now served a new purpose. Down Main Street they rumbled, laden with chairs and tables. The heart of Green Meadows was about to beat with the pulse of celebration. The townspeople, young and old, came together, each one a thread in the vibrant tapestry of the celebration. Children weaved between the tables, their laughter a symphony. Elders shared tales of celebrations past, their voices gruff with age and wisdom. The sun, as if on cue, broke through the clouds. It bathed Green Meadows in a warm glow. The air crackled with anticipation. This was more than just a festival, it was a testament to their unity, a celebration of the bonds that held them together. Season after season, year after year, they waited, their hearts filled with hope. They waited for the festivities to begin, for the moment when they could savor the fruits of their labor. For in Green Meadows, the great planting celebration was more than an event. It was a cherished tradition, a testament to their enduring spirit. The aroma of roasted meats mingled with the sweet scent of cotton candy. Children's laughter echoed through the square, as bright and fleeting as the bubbles that drifted on the air. The harvesters played on, their music a lively backdrop to the festivities. Yet beneath the surface of merriment, a current of unease stirred. The older farmers, their faces weathered by years of sun and toil, gathered in hushed circles. Their eyes, hardened by experience, darted towards the newcomers, their smiles strained. The bounty of last year's harvest had allowed them to indulge in new trucks, gleaming symbols of their prosperity. But their presence held a different meaning now, a silent threat veiled by the festive atmosphere. As the day wore on and the revelry reached its peak, the air grew heavy with unspoken tension. The laughter seemed a touch too loud, the smiles a touch too wide, a desperate attempt to mask the darkness that lurked beneath. The old traditions, whispered in hushed tones and passed down through generations, cast a long shadow over the celebration. The newcomers, oblivious to the undercurrents of fear and anticipation, reveled in the warmth of the community. They danced, they sang, they partook in the abundance of food and drink, unaware that they were the guests of honor at a macabre feast. The sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Shadows stretched across the town square, twisting familiar shapes into something ominous. The music softened, the laughter subsided, replaced by a hush that fell over the crowd like a shroud. The time had come. The older farmers, their faces grim, broke from their huddles. Their eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the crowd, searching, selecting. 3 souls were needed to appease the ancient gods, to ensure a bountiful harvest. It was a sacrifice they were willing to make, a tradition as old as the town itself. Whispers carried on the wind reached the ears of the chosen ones. Strangers, all of them young, healthy, their lives ripe for the taking. They would be missed, of course, but their absence would be attributed to the chaos of the celebration, a tragic accident quickly forgotten. The trucks, symbols of prosperity, now stood as silent sentinels, their gleaming chrome reflecting the dying light. They waited patiently, engines rumbling softly, ready to carry their grim cargo to the outskirts of town, to the ancient oak tree that had witnessed countless sacrifices. Section 3, Whispers of Doom. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the town square, The chosen three felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The revelry continued around them, but they found themselves subtly guided towards the edges of the celebration, their paths orchestrated by unseen hands. A spilled drink here, a whispered suggestion there, and they were drawn away from the safety of the crowd, their senses dulled by the abundance of food and drink, their minds clouded by the festive atmosphere. Whispers of unease, carried on the wind, brushed against their ears, their meanings lost in the cacophony of the celebration. It was as if the very air around them had grown heavy with a sense of foreboding, a premonition of the darkness that awaited them. The trucks parked at the edge of the festivities, their engines rumbling softly, seemed to watch their approach with a predatory hunger. Their gleaming chrome, reflecting the fading light, held a sinister glint, like the eyes of a predator stalking its prey. Section 4, Into the Night. With a subtle nudge, a whispered word, the chosen three were separated from the revelry and ushered towards the waiting vehicles. Their laughter, fueled by the day's festivities, echoed in the night air, oblivious to the sinister purpose that awaited them. The older farmers, their faces grim but resolute, opened the doors to the trucks, their movements swift and silent. There was no malice in their actions, no hint of cruelty, only a chilling acceptance of the task at hand, a duty passed down through generations. The trucks pulled away from the outskirts of the celebration, their taillights disappearing into the darkness like embers fading into ash. The sound of their engines, a low rumble that blended with the nocturnal symphony of crickets and rustling leaves, marked the beginning of their journey into the unknown. As the trucks sped away from the lights of green meadows, the chosen three, their senses dulled by the day's revelry, drifted into a restless slumber, unaware that they were being carried towards a fate far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. Silent departure. The trucks rumbled away from the outskirts of green meadows, their taillights shrinking into the vast darkness that enveloped the town. The night was eerily quiet, the joyous sounds of the celebration fading into a distant memory. The only sounds were the low hum of the engines and the rustle of leaves as the trucks sped down the deserted road. Inside the vehicles, the chosen three slumbered, unaware of their grim destination. Their faces, flushed with the day's festivities, were now pale and slack in the dim light. Their chests rose and fell in an unsettling rhythm, each breath drawing them closer to their unknown fate. The older farmers, their faces etched with a strange mix of solemnity and resolve, drove in silence. They had performed this ritual countless times before, their actions honed by generations of tradition. Their hands, gnarled and calloused from years of toil, gripped the steering wheels with an almost religious fervor. The trucks, their chrome gleaming under the pale moonlight, seemed to glide through the darkness like phantoms, their passage marked only by the faint glow of their headlights and the whisper of tires on asphalt. They were headed for a place shrouded in shadow and steeped in ancient lore, a place where the veil between the natural and the supernatural was thin. The ancient oak. The trucks veered off the main road, their headlights cutting through the dense undergrowth that lined the path. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a sharp contrast to the sweet aroma of the celebration they had left behind. Ahead, silhouetted against the moonlit sky, stood the ancient oak tree. Its gnarled branches, twisted and contorted with age, reached towards the heavens like grasping claws. Its trunk, massive and imposing, seemed to pulse with a life force older than time itself. The trucks came to a halt at the base of the tree, their engines falling silent, breaking the stillness of the night. The older farmers emerged from the vehicles, their movements stiff and deliberate. Their faces, illuminated by the pale moonlight, were etched with a mixture of reverence and dread. They gathered around the tailgate of the first truck, their eyes fixed on the slumbering form of the first chosen one. Their silence was heavy with unspoken words, a shared understanding that transcended language. A harvest of souls. One by one, the chosen three were unloaded from the trucks, their bodies limp and unresisting. They were carried towards the base of the ancient oak, their forms dwarfed by its immense presence. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable sense of anticipation that sent shivers down their spines. The older farmers worked with a practiced efficiency, their movements honed by generations of ritual. They bound the hands and feet of their victims, their faces betraying no emotion, their actions merely a grim necessity in the grand scheme of things. A shallow grave had been prepared beforehand. The dark earth turned over in silent anticipation of its grim offering. The chosen three were lowered into the ground, their eyes still closed, their breaths shallow and even. They were oblivious to the fate that awaited them, their dreams undisturbed by the nightmare that was about to unfold. As the last rays of moonlight filtered through the leaves of the ancient oak, casting long, dancing shadows across the clearing, the older farmers gathered around the grave. They stood shoulder to shoulder, their heads bowed in silent prayer, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames of the torches they held. The time had come to make their sacrifice, to appease the ancient gods and ensure a bountiful harvest. Sunday dawned over green meadows, the echoes of the great planting celebration a fading memory. The once vibrant town square now lay deserted, the remnants of the previous day's festivities scattered like fallen leaves. The air, once thick with the scent of roasted meats and sweet treats, now carried the crisp, clean smell of a new day. The silence was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the joyous cacophony that had filled the air just hours before. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a silence pregnant with unspoken truths, a silence that settled over the town like a shroud. The doors of the town's church stood open, a beacon of hope and solace in the aftermath of the celebration. The townsfolk, their faces etched with a mixture of fatigue and a strange disquiet, made their way inside, their footsteps echoing on the cobblestone streets. The church bells tolled, their somber notes a stark contrast to the lively music that had filled the air just hours before. It was a call to prayer, a call to reflection, a call to confront the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of their idyllic town. The church was filled to capacity, the townsfolk seeking solace and guidance in the aftermath of the celebration. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the weight of unspoken words. The stained glass windows depicting scenes of harvest and bounty seemed to mock the darkness that clung to the hearts of those gathered below. The pastor, a man of God with eyes that had seen too much, stood at the pulpit, his gaze sweeping over the congregation. He saw the fear, the guilt, the complicity that flickered in their eyes. He had seen it all before, year after year, generation after generation. His sermon that day was not one of hope or redemption, but one of acceptance and the burden of tradition. He spoke of the sacrifices that were sometimes necessary to ensure the prosperity of the many, of the ancient pacts made with forces beyond their understanding. His words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, as the townsfolk shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their eyes darted towards 3 empty pews in the front, a stark reminder of the price that had been paid for their continued well-being. As the church service came to an end, the townsfolk filed out into the bright Sunday morning light, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and a lingering unease. The silence of the town square was now broken by the sound of their footsteps and hushed whispers. But it was a different kind of silence, one tinged with guilt and apprehension. The great planting celebration was over, but its memory lingered like a shadow over green meadows. Life would go on, the crops would grow, and the cycle of harvest would continue. But the events of the previous night had left an indelible mark on their souls. They returned to their fields, their hands tending to the earth, their minds haunted by the knowledge of what lay buried beneath the surface. They worked diligently, their movements mechanical, their thoughts a tangled mess of guilt, fear, and a strange sense of gratitude. The corn, young and green, swayed gently in the breeze, a symbol of hope and renewal. But beneath its verdant surface, hidden from the light of day, lay a darkness that would forever taint the soil of Green Meadows. Green Meadows, a town bathed in sunshine and shadowed by secrets. The great planting celebration, a testament to the enduring cycle of life and harvest, stood as a chilling reminder of the duality of tradition. On the surface, it was a joyous occasion, a celebration of community and the bounty of the land. But beneath the surface, hidden from the prying eyes of outsiders, lay a darkness as old as the town itself. The 3 empty seats in the church pews served as a silent indictment, a stark reminder of the price paid for prosperity. The townsfolk, their faces etched with a mixture of guilt and resignation, went about their daily lives, their routines unchanged, yet forever altered by the knowledge of what lay buried beneath the fertile soil. The corn continued to grow, its verdant stalks reaching towards the heavens, nourished by the earth and the blood of sacrifice. It was a bountiful harvest, just as it had been for generations, a testament to the efficacy of the old ways, a chilling reminder of the pact made between man and the unseen forces that governed their world. The cycle continued, year after year, the celebration, the sacrifice, the harvest. It was a cycle woven into the very fabric of Green Meadows, a cycle that bound them together in a web of complicity and dread. The story of Green Meadows serves as a chilling parable, a cautionary tale about the seductive nature of tradition and the seductive power of belief. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that even the most idyllic of communities can harbor dark secrets, that beneath the veneer of normalcy lies a primal darkness that can never be fully extinguished. The echoes of Green Meadows resonate far beyond the town's borders, forcing us to question the true cost of prosperity, the sacrifices we are willing to make in the name of tradition, and the lengths to which we will go to preserve a way of life. It is a story that lingers long after the final page is turned, leaving the reader with a profound sense of unease and a chilling realization that the most terrifying monsters are often those we create ourselves. The next time you encounter a celebration of tradition, a festival of abundance, take a moment to look beyond the surface, to listen for the whispers in the wind, and to remember the chilling lesson of Green Meadows, that sometimes the greatest sacrifices are made in the name of the things we hold most dear.